Hi, it's Neil Steer here. I just wanted to check in and leave a little message of hope for you listeners out there, 'cause I know you're hurting. Who would have thought that 2020 would have been such a tough year? Not me. But that's because I was certified insane at the end of 2019 and deemed a harm to myself and others. So I don't know what year it is, but I do know that the surviving and dead members of the Beatles are after me. And they're coming. I think I hear them now. I think I hear them again. Oh God. Oh no. I think I see Ringo. No, not again. So, get your flu jab, keep wearing your mask, practice social distancing, and we should get through the winter A-OK. Oh, and you're listening to The Bliss of the Abyss.
Once upon a time in a land far away, a poor farmer and his wife lived all alone. They were very lonesome.
Of the Abyss
with Robert Newmark Jones. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Bliss of the Abyss. My name is a collection of letters that when placed from left to right spells out the words Robert Newmark Jones, although occasionally if you read it in Dutch it says Ruskin Denmark. Hello, how are you doing? How are you doing? I'm doing alright. I'm in a room that's very dark because I'm trying to make the sound good. Been going down the rabbit hole of how to make sound better. And it's very complicated. And yeah, there's like anything else, right? If you actually are interested in something, there is no end to the depth at which knowledge can ascend. What the am I talking about? What the... I might start beeping my swears. Broaden my appeal. Do you know what I mean? Because bit niche, aren't I? Hey, I'm a bit niche. Hello, welcome to I'm a bit niche. Britney's got knees. Welcome to I've Got Knees. There's a Van Morrison song. Firstly, is his name Van? Like, is that his name? And if it is... why? Okay, no. His name's George. There we go. So, Ivan, hence Van.
No more lockdown, no more government overreach, no more fascist bullies disturbing our peace, no more taking of our freedom and our God-given rights, pretending it's for our safety when it's really to enslave. Who's running our country?
No more lockdown. Well, I got some bad news for you, Van the man. We are going to have lockdown. To listeners outside of the UK, England is going into a state of lockdown on midnight of Guy Fawkes night, eh? Because that makes sense. Thursday. So here we are, we're back. We are back. I think I predicted that we wouldn't go back to a full lockdown. I was slightly correct and mainly wrong. Because the schools are staying open. I believe I said the pubs, there's no way they'll close the pubs. I was wrong. You know what? It takes a big man to admit when they're wrong. And I am a big man. By which I mean fat. But I have started to lose a few of the COVID LBs. The COVID-15, I've lost a few, eh? So I'm not a complete, utter disaster. Just 91%. Yeah, 91%. Deal with it. So, what can I tell you about? On the show today, we have Jason Collin. Jason is a writer, a fantastic man, and a Jew. The reason I bring that up is because we jump pretty much straight into Jeremy Corbyn being suspended from the Labour Party, because we recorded on the day that it had happened. In fact, we recorded sort of 5 minutes after it happened. So we start off by reacting to that. If you're not really interested in politics, the first 10 minutes we're talking about Corbyn, Luciana Berger, Donald Trump, stuff like that. If that doesn't interest you, skip ahead. We talk about all kinds of really interesting stuff, Cohen brothers, and of course, the main reason I have him on and how I met him is the movie that we shot together, the short film, which I'm going to put links for in the show. It's going to be premiering this Sunday. You can buy your tickets there. There'll also be a Q&A afterwards, and I'm going to be so charming and erudite. You'd be a fool to miss it. Yeah, so please buy tickets. Help support this at threat industry, which I guess full lockdown means they'll probably be closing down production. And certainly all of those theatres that we're going to open in mid-November, that looks like that's not going to happen. So please do support the arts, and more specifically me and my art. I'm in this movie, and I have to say, I think it's a good movie. I'm not the main character, but I am the best character. Love you guys. I would just like to address something up front, seeing as we do jump in speaking about Corbyn and anti-Semitism and all of that. And I would just like to sort of make it clear my position here. So if you're not interested in any of this, why are you listening to the show? But, feel free to skip. Oh, and thanks to Nils for that sting at the beginning. And if you would like a sting at the beginning of the show, get in touch. I knocked doors for Jeremy Corbyn with my friend Hohef. Shout out. I believed in the vision that he laid out. I didn't know that much about him. I didn't know that much about his past. I saw that he'd been a champion for rights and for justice for a long time, and a bit of a contrarian. And I like contrarians. I think I'm a contrarian. No, you're not. However, as time went on and his leadership started to wane, there were a lot of troubling moments for those of us in the Jewish community. And I actually had some interactions with some friends who said some of the very things that Corbyn said that got him suspended from the party. Oh, it's not really a big deal, or oh, it doesn't exist that much, everything's overblown, or there was a lot of whataboutism. Well, what about the Tories? What about this? What about that? Yeah, and I don't partake in that, I'm going to judge you based on what you say and do. Okay? And there is a Medium article that goes at great length cataloguing every single instance of anti-Semitism abuse that occurred in the Labour Party. And I get it. A lot of people don't want to listen to this. They don't care. And part of that is because they think it's overblown, which is its own form of anti-Semitism. Part of that is because, hey, there's too much going on, right? We've only got so much bandwidth. But for those of you who do care, or for those of you who do think it's overblown, have a look at what Luciana Berger received. Google it. Look at the images. Look at the death threats. Consider her life. Consider what happened to her. That's one case. If that interests you, if that proves to you that's a thing, dig a bit deeper. See what else you find. It does exist. I would challenge anyone that if someone was downplaying your group, and we're all humans, yeah? We should all be on the same team here. Would it fly? Would that be cool? No. And the dog whistles, the mural, the conflation of Israel with Jews, it not only was it just obvious to those of us who are Jews mainly. Obviously, there's, the old adage, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. 2 Jews, 3 opinions does apply. But would it be acceptable if he was saying it about pick another group? If there was a mural which was homophobic and he shared it, would that fly? Would people be okay with that? If he's tweeted out all lives matter, would that be okay? No. But for some people, it is okay when he treads that line, when he minimises, when he talks about shadowy forces, when he shares platforms with some terrible anti-Semites. Is that okay? If you think equality is one of the most important things, I do, then it's all very well saying, oh yeah, it's a problem. But did you do anything? Or did you constantly not do stuff? And did you drive many Labour people out of the party? And did you play your part in helping Boris Johnson get elected? Because like I said, I doorstepped. Not this most recent one, the first time. But I know a lot of people who did. And I know a lot of people who brought up that issue on the doorstep. And Labour got trounced. You just think about that. And I don't want him to be suspended from the party. I don't want there to be some kind of rift. This is the party that I believe should be running the country. And we'd be in a much better place if we were. And I'm not Keir Starmer's biggest fan, but I'm also a pragmatist. Politics is the art of the possible. And it is possible he could win an election. And for me, that's a good thing. I don't want another decade of these right-wing bastards running this country into the ground. I'm sick of it. And why should I be afraid of saying this? Because I know Jewish people are. Yeah? There are so few of us in the UK. So few of us. Anyway. I hope Corbyn has a moment of reflection. Because I don't think he's a bad man. But I hope he thinks about what's just happened here and why. And starts to take this stuff a bit more seriously. And maybe then we can get some more Jews back into the Labour Party. And maybe then the Labour Party can win an election for the first time in maybe. Anyway. That's all I got to say on that. If you're new to the show, it's not always like this. But, that's my headspace. That's where I'm at with this. And if you've got another contrasting opinion and you want to share it with me, by all means, get in touch and try and remain civil. Before I get to the episode, let me just give me 2 minutes, seeing as this is quite a political episode. If Donald Trump wins the election, I will cut off my nuts and post them to him in a lovely little box, and I'll sign them from Hillary Rodham Clinton. I don't know what that will achieve, but that is my line in the sand. I don't know. It's just a fucking ridiculous world we live in, isn't it, people? I mean, who the hell is ready for another month of lockdown? But here's the thing. Last lockdown, went into it, best shape of my life, came out of it, a fat bastard. This lockdown, you heard it here first. Where else would you hear it? This lockdown, I'm not going to let that happen. Okay? All right? I may even give up pizza. How about that? I might even give up pizza. Nah. Didn't last long. Yeah, that's all I got to say on all of that. So without any further ado, let me jump to my chat with Jason, the wonderful Jason Collin, and please check out our excellent film Woman of Valour, debuting on a premiere this Sunday, the 8th of November. Tickets on sale already, 4:30 p.m. British Standard Time. Greenwich Meridian Time. And I'd just like to sign off here saying a message of love. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to this show and supporting me and what I'm trying to do here. And that intro wasn't so much bliss as it was abyss, but this chat with Jason is a hell of a lot of bliss. So enjoy. And I love you. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
The bliss of the abyss.
It gives me great pleasure to say, Jason Collin, welcome to the Bliss of the Abyss.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
It's very nice to be here too.
How are you doing?
Very well. How are you doing?
Yes, okay. I would classify
only
my
okay.
mental state as okay.
That's a great state to be in. Well, I'm shattered, so
Are
I
you?
guess we're both okay.
Okay actually means terribly shattered, world weary, disgusted at the state of my life.
Well, it's just a crazy day as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
personally or politically?
well, politically, with
Go on, say it.
Mr. Corbyn being
Mr. Corbyn. We may as well jump straight in. It's
Yeah.
current topic. It's hot. He's just been suspended from the Labour Party.
He has. It's quite exciting.
What's your hot take on it?
Well, I think that kind of summed it up. It's maybe I feel like I could potentially be a member of the family again, if you will. It's a good thing. Well, I don't think they were going to do it, were they? Until he actually put out that statement, and his statement essentially said, "Actually, this is all Yes, it's bad, except the fact it's not really real."
He did the whole thing that everyone criticised him all along for. Well, a number of things they criticised him, but the minimising, it's a problem, but it's not a problem, and it's all overblown. And he just couldn't resist trotting out that line again. Yeah. And I mean, he must have known on some level that would get him at least a slap on the wrist, if not more.
I don't know what he was expecting. I mean, it's his version of fake news. It's his version of just simply. Was it like there's an extra what do they call it? The fourth, I don't know, part of society that is actually reeling against him. It's just tragic, really.
Yeah,
it's just sad. It's just really, really sad.
I know. It's because he started off the leadership of the party as this kind of great hope that might unify the youth.
Yeah,
sweep this new left-wing agenda into power, and it all descended into the most horrific chaos that you could imagine.
Just awful. But no, it's I quite like Starmer, I have to say.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's a pretty impressive guy.
Yeah.
So I knew Luciana back in the day growing up, so it's kind of
Luciana Berger.
Yeah.
Did
so
you?
Kind of.
Oh, really?
Well, we're not mates, but I knew her when I was 16.
Okay,
and a friend of mine's part of the campaign against anti-Semitism, and it's just good to see. It was good to see her on TV today have that kind of cathartic moment.
Oh, I didn't see that. What did she say?
Just to simply say that the trauma that she's been through over the last 3 years, and hopefully this can be some form of, hopefully bringing the party back together.
Yeah, a healing moment.
She said it far more eloquently than I did, but no, but it was just good to see, and it was interesting. It was especially about tragic news that happened today in France. It was just interesting to see it got so much coverage.
Yeah,
which what it deserved. So no, it was a sad day and a positive day, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember doing the research for One Jewish Boy part of his character is very much being in depth in the world of anti-Semitism and all of that stuff. And I went one dark evening, I went down the rabbit hole of looking at everything people had sent to Luciana Berger. It's the darkest part of the human psyche. It's just evil, hatred, vicious vitriol. And people who want to minimise it, I say to you, go and look up what these people have sent, and then imagine someone sent that to you. And you have to take it seriously. You know, if people are threatening your life and all the rest of it, that's just one element of all of the abuse.
She had to have personal security to get to a Labour Party conference. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So,
and then to minimise that from the top is... It's I mean, apart from anything else, it's poor leadership. And at that point, the ship had sailed that he couldn't lead the party to a victory.
He said it
anyway.
was enemies within the party and outside of the party who must be drumming this up to a level which is not true. And it's just another word for me saying it was Jews doing it from inside the party to be against him and outside the party.
That's some dog whistling right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's doing exactly what Keir Starmer said you shouldn't be doing, and therefore they kicked him out. So we'll see what happens. He's apparently appealing, I believe. So.
Right, yeah, I imagine so.
But my understanding is, he's actually open to... Is he open to prosecution after this, or open to a suit? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I think from the limited amount that I read about the EHC report, that is a possibility. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, you can dream in some naive way. This puts an end to it, and one of the great institutions here, the Labour Party, can rise again and be a force to be reckoned with.
Have a shot at actually setting the agenda for this country instead of playing catch up the whole time.
I agree.
Especially considering the fucking bumbling idiots that we have running the country right now. You have to think someone with love him or hate him. Actually, how can you really hate him, Starmer? Like, love him or just feel apathy or antipathy towards him, because he's a pretty regular down the line kind of guy. He's definitely going to present something that's better for your average person on the street and is less in favour of cronyism than the idiots that we have running this country
right now. This is what happens when you don't have a good opposition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have a buffoon swept into power who doesn't know what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Speaking of buffoons in power, and why not? We're talking about politics up front. We may as well. We can talk about anything on this podcast. Obviously, you're a writer. I want to get all into that and your history of that. And for people listening, just some clarification, I will say this at the beginning, but Jason wrote a film that I was in that's part of a festival. The screening of which will be next Sunday, the 8th.
Indeed, November 8th is the official world premiere.
Yes, and I will present, I'll put tickets and links and all of that, and you can come and see. We're going to have a Q&A after as well. It will all be digital, because God bless 2020, we can't be on the red carpet anymore. And it's a fantastic film, we'll get into that. But back to Buffoons in Office, what do you think's going to happen in, I think it's 6 days, in the United States of America?
So I was incredibly naive 4 years ago. I thought it'd be a really good idea to go on holiday with my wife to DC for the election. So, literally, we were in...
Whoa.
Yeah, so we did this really cool holiday. We were going... Where did we start? We did down South Carolina. We went to...
that's quite far. Okay.
Where the hell did we go? Anyway, it was gorgeous. Loved it. Then went to DC for the election. Thought it'd be fun. Then we were going to Miami. It was a bit of a crazy holiday. And we went to some bar in the centre of town. We met some, guys who were lobbying. And we were all colouring in the states as they went, blue or red. And then the place just emptied.
Yeah.
It was a ghost town. It's weird. I mean, DC's clearly a democratic town.
Yes, of course.
And Katie just went, I'm going to bed. I'm not looking at this. And I stayed up all night. This can't be true. This can't be true. This is insane. This is literally insane.
Keep refreshing the feed.
I was like, what's going on? I'm like, it was all because of me. Why did I come here on holiday? I'm sorry, everybody. Yes, so hopefully that is rectified in a few days' time. I don't think they get a result that day, right? Because
not necessarily.
There's so many votes that I think are done postal. Yeah, they're going to take a few days.
I think if it was a landslide, then we would know pretty quickly. Yeah. But the closer it becomes, the longer and more drawn out that process gets.
Yeah.
And certainly there is nothing perfect about Biden and Harris.
He's also 712 years old, which is a slight problem.
Which is, I mean, he's only slightly older than Trump, isn't
he's
he?
only a few years older, I think.
I think he's in... I mean, all of the right-wing media has all these attacks on his, like, mental whatever. But like, physically, he's definitely in better shape than Trump, who is bloated up to the size of a balloon.
Like 300. But are you a West Wing fan?
I actually have not watched The West Wing. I think it's the only one of those big, like, long dramas, 6-season arcs, all of it. The only one I haven't seen is The West Wing.
I mean, for me, it's the greatest show ever written, right? I love it. I'm obsessed with it. But then they had this show recently. They did like a live performance of a particular episode to get people out to vote.
Right.
And Martin Sheen comes back to reprise his role.
Amazing.
And it's live. Well, I didn't see it live, but it was live on stage. Sure. And Martin Sheen, it was like geriatrics redo The West Wing, like 25 years after it finished or whatever. And Martin Sheen's only a couple of years older than both of them. Like, it's just, I can't... To be able to run when you're in your mid-70s, the late 70s, it's just crazy.
All of the things that it entails.
It's unbelievable.
Like, we were, moaning at the beginning of the show about being a bit tired and stuff. Well, imagine you're flying over the country, left, right and centre.
Time zone hopping. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Speaking to so many different types of people, some huge crowds, some very small meetings, some, there's millions of dollars on the table that you need.
I'm
and you
tired
have to...
driving to South London.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bananas. Yeah, my son woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. I'd be screwed. Like they're like, I don't know when they sleep. It's just amazing.
No, well, presumably they're injected with the blood of youngsters.
Obviously. I mean, how else would you do it?
Right, it's the only way.
Just on an IV constantly.
Yes.
Why do you think he's orange?
Have you seen the new Borat movie?
I haven't yet.
There's a great scene in it where he dresses up in a Trump suit and crashes the Conservative rally with his daughter over his shoulder.
She's meant to be brilliant, right?
She is astonishing.
She's like, it's her first Bulgarian actress' first movie.
Correct.
Amazing.
24. Apparently he interviewed 600 people for the role. And I say interviewed, not audition, because it was like an in-depth thing. It wasn't just like, see if you've got talent. It's like, look, this is more than just an acting gig.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to have stones of steel.
Yeah.
And she is, honestly, she's astonishing. And I don't think she'll get recognition at the Oscars or whatever, because comedies rarely do.
I don't know why that is. Like,
no.
I mean, many ways, comedy is just kind of tragedy on speed, right?
Yeah.
Like, terrible things happening really, really quickly, so it just, like, makes you...
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they considered as a high form of art as drama? I really don't know. I think it's ridiculous, personally.
The Academy seems to like it if you either gain or lose £100.
You seen that Will Ferrell thing?
No, go on, tell me.
There's this Will Ferrell thing, like, at the Oscars. He does this whole musical bit of, like, feeling like being the loneliest man in town is a clown at the Oscars. Because nobody will recognise your talent. And then Jack Black comes on stage, like, I need to accept that role, losing £100, lead poisoning. It's very good. Watch it on YouTube. It's really, really funny.
I think...
No, but I agree with you.
I wonder if, like... I don't know, so I'll fact chest it. Fact chest? Yeah, I'll fact chest it. The Cohen brothers, have they won any Oscars? Because they've done, like, some of my favourite comedies of all time.
I don't know.
They're more nuanced, aren't they, the comedies that they do? It's not like...
They've done some brilliant... Have you seen A Serious Man?
Yes.
Such a good movie.
The thing with the teeth?
Oh, God, it was the prayer written on the back of the teeth. It's just genius. I just love the guy who just gives him that... Every time he hugs him, he puts his hand around the back of his neck.
Oh...
What's his name? Oh, he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, those little touches. That's what
such a good film. Such a good film.
That's my favourite film of all time is The Big Lebowski.
Oh, of course.
Which is
I went on a date to Queen's Park. And
many years ago, now married, etc., etc.
And in the park, and I took her, like, this is kind of an acid test. If you don't, it was like Big Lebowski in the park. She didn't like it. And it was kind of, this is not going to work.
It's not going to...
If you don't like the dude.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what are you
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I mean, everything.
Don't roll shoppers. It's just some great line. Damn right I'm stuck in the past. What was that line? Damn right I'm stuck in the past? 5,000 years from Moses to Sandy Koufax. It's just some of the best lines in movie
The
history.
ringer, dude. Take the ringer.
When she swings in. What's it? I just love that movie. It's just brilliant. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I mean, turning slightly to writing, which is your craft, the way that they do it, I mean, is it like anyone else? I struggle to think of anything. One movie springs to mind. Have you seen Barton Fink? Which is about writing and written by them. It's one of their very early movies.
Who plays Jesus in the Jesus in
nobody fucks with the Jesus.
Yeah,
John Turturro.
Yeah, he's in it, right?
Yes, he's
I
the
haven't
main
actually
guy.
seen, I swear I've seen it, but I can't.
And John Goodman's in it.
I haven't seen it.
And it's in a hotel. That's your homework. You will love it.
I'll get it done.
Because not only is it the Cohen brothers, but it's also John Goodman, John Turturro, who are both fantastic.
You know, he's just come out with a sequel to the Jesus. He's got a Jesus movie. It's on Prime or Netflix or something. He wrote it. He's directed it himself. John Turturro. The Jesus comes out of prison.
As in, nobody fucks with the Jesus.
Literally, nobody fucks with the Jesus. Comes out of prison.
This is so exciting, Jason.
Apparently, I'm not sure it's any good.
Well, but presumably
It's
the
on
Cohen
Sky.
brothers must have signed off on it.
I think they're mates, right?
Yeah. Right?
So, yeah, they must have done. It's their character.
Oh my god, okay. I'm not going to look it up now, but I want to.
I saw it on Sky. I was like, really?
It's called The Jesus Rolls.
Oh, you found it?
It's got 21% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's not good. It's not a good score as far as I understand.
It's not the best score. There have been better scored movies.
But clearly you're going to have to see it, right?
I do want to.
Yeah.
It is 2 hours long, which strikes me as indulgence.
But then again, how long is The Big Lebowski? It's like 17 hours long, isn't it?
The Big Lebowski never finishes.
It never ends. It's like Tarantino doing an edit. Like every scene just goes on for like 4 hours.
You know, I heard the reason that is because his longtime editor died.
Oh, really?
And there's a point at which his movies start to, if you had it on a graph, they get longer and longer because he becomes like this bigger star with more control. So inevitably, as we were talking about earlier, he gets to keep more of what he wants in and less gets cut out. So it's going like that. His editor dies and it just skyrockets, and that's why his latest movies are all like at least 2.5, 3.
I remember seeing Inglourious Bastards, and there's the opening scene, you know, the Jew killer.
Yeah,
and he's in that. The scene goes like, literally, it's like as long as any screenplay I've written, just that one scene. It's like incredible.
It is. That's a great movie as well.
It's really good.
But yeah, let's move on specifically more to your writing. So, Woman of Valour is the short movie. It was called Shit Heil in the development phase and all of that. Where did the idea for it start? How did it germinate? How long has the process been? Take me through.
So it was a little while. So Dom, the director, approached me. I've known Dom since we were kids, but we were never really close. When I say kids, like 18, 19. He lived with one of my best mates at uni.
Okay.
And he read a feature I wrote that did quite well in a competition, but hadn't produced it. And he mentioned the Pears Film Fund. They'd come up with this. Pears Film Fund was associated with UK Jewish film. They kind of fund up-and-coming writers and directors, and wanted me to write something. And the initial idea that I had was kind of an infertile midwife.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought there was something incredibly, like a tragic irony.
Right, yeah.
And I wanted to pick a universal theme that would resonate within a Jewish environment would then amp up the pressure of that universal theme. So hopefully any audience would connect with the story. So that was the initial idea. But then as the story developed, there was no tension between the couple because she was infertile. So the story then came about why is this couple why does she not want to have a child and he does? And then it evolved into, okay, they lost their child during labour, which I imagine for a midwife then, going through that trauma every time she then delivers another child, and set in a religious Jewish environment where he is a yeshiva bach or as a student, everyone has kids young, right?
Yeah.
They have like 3, 4, 5 kids.
At least.
So, yeah. So he's got that pressure kind of from his community and from his friends, and he sees like his best mate, who you play, having a kid, amps it up. So that's the tension between them. And ultimately, it was originally, it's funny, when you watch it, my wife thinks it's her story, but in my eyes, he is the protagonist. He is the one with the narrative arc. He is the one who's driving the story. And I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
We were talking about the development of it and how it evolved.
So it was very much about, it was her story initially, but as I got into it more and more, invariably I I got into it through my eyes,
Yeah.
and one of the traumas we've been through, and it very much became his need to. He has been in denying of his own pain, and she needs him to recognise that pain. So the initial story in my head was he is trying to protect his wife because there's an asymmetry what happened between them. It happened to her body. She lost a child inside her. Him recognising his own pain in front of her, he thinks would set her off. And he's trying to protect her, whereas actually, in order for them to move forward, she needs to see him almost not live in denial and recognise that pain. So that's how, hopefully, it has a hopeful ending, if you will.
Yeah, and I think you can see that in Aaron and Molly's performances, that they've stuffed these things down in different ways, and it starts to come out, doesn't it, in ways that you didn't intend, because it has to come out. Those feelings can't just disappear. You don't just put a lid on it and they evaporate. It has to manifest in some way. And so for him, it comes out in like anger and frustration, and for her, it comes out in withdrawal and misery. To paint with broad brushstrokes.
Well, I think one of the main things is stoicism. I think is like a false virtue.
Interesting.
And he's being extremely stoic and trying to remain strong for her, whereas the very thing that she needs is for him to almost break down.
She needs to see that vulnerability to know that it affected him as much as it did.
Absolutely,
not more.
And that's how they can reconnect. Because the very person, I think, in this relationship, the very person that he would ordinarily go to is the very person that if he did go to, he thinks he's going to cause pain. And therefore that creates a fracture in their relationship because he doesn't turn to his wife when he's in pain. Whereas the arc of the story is that he then, of course, turns to her at the end. So,
well, they almost have to, without giving anything away, things have to come to a head because of the situation they've kind of put themselves in. I mean, it wasn't initially their fault, of course, but in both of their reactions to it, it's amped up to this situation, and things almost have to come to a head in order for then there to be a breakthrough. It's like you have a breakdown before you have a breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the two of them, obviously, again, this is very well portrayed on screen. They're very tenderly care for each other. It's just like a magnet that's forgotten how to attract itself.
There's this. I know you're not allowed to speak his name anymore, but Louis C.K. had this whole stick about
Louis who?
Unfigurable to talk about him. But he has this whole shtick about like he's driving his car. And, people are so scared of not being loved that they'll, like, text at the same time. And almost, like, kill themselves doing it. I'm never going to do this justice. But this whole thing about he actually pulled over and just burst into tears. His eyes, like, cried like a bitch, as Louis C.K. would say. And then he lets the happiness antibodies come in, right?
Right.
And, like, unless you let yourself crash, you can't then truly then let yourself rise again.
Yeah.
And with him, if you don't let yourself crash, or what happens in this case, then you just live in that permanent state of just, like, okayness, if you will. I don't know what the right word is. Like, you're never truly happy, you're never truly sad.
Punching the clock.
Yeah, exactly. So it had to happen in this story that he has to have his crash.
Yeah.
From which he needs to rise again, where he almost takes the relationship to the edge.
He does, right? Doesn't
he does. Yeah.
And then he pulls it back in an interesting way.
Yeah.
But without giving away anything that happens, thinking more about the development. So you and Dom, you decide you want to work together.
Yeah.
You've got now this script.
So we wrote the script for the fund itself, and we had to put a package together and put it forward. And then you went through 60 or 70 scripts, or maybe a touch more they receive. They kind of whittle it down, and we had an interview process. It was meant to be obviously in person. It was online. We did have one point where I sent in a treatment. They critiqued it. And it was actually extremely helpful because at that point it was still, in my eyes, she was the protagonist. And it was actually, that helped unlock the fact that for me it was his emotional arc. And it took a while to really understand what the theme of the story was. I knew where I was going. I knew the moment where he would be reborn, his rebirth, if you will, which we do visually. But I had to figure out what he was being reborn from, what had he burnt, if you will, in the relationship. So that was really helpful. So anyway, we very joyously won the award.
Yep.
So they picked two, It's quite. They pick. So it's quite. The other story, I don't know if you know, it's called Schnoz. It's quite a funny concept.
It looks funny. It's got Maureen Lipman starring in it. She's always great.
So I spoke to her. She's great. Her name's Sophie Shad, who wrote it and is in it as well.
Yeah.
And it's about and I think on her 21st birthday, she gets a present from her grandmother, which is £10,000 for a nose job. And then her great-grandmother's a ghost in it, and they come back and have a chat. So I think they picked like a really light comedy, which is very much like a female-led story.
Yeah.
And then Ours, which is very much wasn't a male-led story.
Yeah.
So they've got two, very much a
more
drama and a
serious,
tragedy.
yeah.
It was not has a tragic.
It's not really a tragedy, is it? Because it ends on without giving it away. Yeah. It doesn't end in misery and despair.
It's a couple overcoming tragedy.
Yeah.
Whereas one has much more levity to it.
Yeah.
And there is some, I guess, your scene with Aaron, I think, has got kind of a joyous, kind of funny moment in it as well. So, but yeah, so it's interesting they pick those two kind of stories. And when they do the event, I was kind of, will they do both films back to back? And then it feels like, a real comedy and then a real drama and then do the Q&A together. But I think they're going to split it up because
yeah.
I think we'll see. But yeah, so that's so. Okay. So we raised the money, which was great, and then we had to go through a COVID casting process, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, it must have been bizarre.
Yeah,
it was bizarre from my side of things, having to zoom in and do chemistry reads over Zoom, which is like...
Oh, because you read opposite...
Yeah. So it was like, well, I think we've got a connection here, but like, I don't know. For all I know, this person is only half a person and the rest of them is a squid. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, we had one...
Honestly, we did have a squid.
Obviously. I mean, you've got a diverse cast now. But
it's down to you and the squid.
But I had an issue. Like we were casting a few people for your role. Or we were auditioning people, for a few role. And I was worried about people's height.
Right.
Because I couldn't really tell on Zoom. And you got this sheet. And then this wonderful actress who came in, it was very tall, 6'1", and then another person we were looking at who was like 5'6", and how do you work out the visuals of the piece when you're doing it all over Zoom and you can't see them together and the chemistry, and it was tricky.
Yeah,
it was really tricky. I really enjoyed it. It was a great process. I mean, I thoroughly. Hopefully the next film that I produce, I definitely, if the director doesn't mind, I definitely want to be part of the
casting process.
Yeah, because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It's when I've been part of the casting process, it's always so illuminating to me, and I think anyone who's an actor should just try and produce their own thing, however big or small, and cast it just to see how arbitrary and impersonal things can be, because actors are going to take things personally. I mean, the longer you're in the business, the better you are at dealing with the rejection, but there's still some element of like, I was perfect for this, why didn't I do it? And as soon as you're on the other side of the couch, you just you see someone, you're like, oh, they're fantastic, but it's not for this one.
We got some really good people in. Like there was for Molly's role, the main Chava, there were three that we really liked, and it was really interesting. It was just also three very different ways of reading the role. There's a big argument like halfway through the film, and one actress kind of like blew up asunder, tears, screaming, and it was incredibly moving. It got my heart going. And then you've got kind of the subtler interpretation, which Molly, and it just touched me. I found the casting process helped, and I think it helped Dom as well, how he wanted to go about blocking the scene itself. So it was both just really interesting in terms of how we're going to interpret that scene.
Yeah.
Just having so many people do it different ways. And I sometimes, I didn't like the way she read it, let's say, but then it's the director's role then to actually, there's talent there that we can work with. So it's a mixture of both those things. But I found it a really enjoyable and just educational process. I really did. And trying to match actors and with their respective others, etc. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and Dom was really good in leading the sessions, giving us just little bits of motivation, but try it this way, try it that way, have this bit of subtext. Not too much, not too little. Because a lot of people will say, okay, and now just do it again, something different. And you go, I mean, what do they want, a French accent? I mean, what do you mean something different? Like, how vague can it be?
He actually threw me with a couple of his questions. Like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
I
Really? Thought I detected something in your face occasionally.
Yeah, I was like, well, I wrote this. I didn't think of that.
Dom, you've completely missed the point.
Don't you understand the essence of the scene? No, but it was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. No, so it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The picking was, the truth was hard, but I'm delighted with how it's worked out.
I mean, because then you got your crew together.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this is all in the pandemic.
Yeah.
So guidelines were changing the whole time. And obviously on set we had a COVID-safe person and we had all these forms and checks and everything we had to go through. How difficult was it to get to that first day of filming?
Well, we were initially going to shoot in July. And then, we pushed it back almost... the end of mid-end August.
I think mid-end August, yeah.
Yeah, so it was really hard. I mean, also, it's a very tight budget, right? We raised some money from the Pears Film Fund. Dom also got another award from John Broburn. I think it's John Broburn, which I hope helped get us a few extra pennies in the door.
Mm-hmm.
But then COVID was probably 10% of the whole budget. And when you think, it's tough. It's really tough to get it done, and it's incredibly lucky to get it made. In truth, we got some really lucky breaks. I think one of them was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we were looking at a hospital, because that's one of the scenes. So we're looking at a hospital set, and they're going to charge us $3,000 or something for the day. And you can imagine for a short film, it's a huge budget, but we needed to be in a hospital. And I spoke with the other film; they managed to get some hotel that's empty and kind of play around with it to make it look like a hospital. And then where we shot, we managed to get for £75.
Wow.
So suddenly, wow, okay, we can actually manage to get this done.
Yeah, and it was an actual hospital.
Yeah. So, which everyone thought during COVID, how can you do this? But it was actually in a section that no one was uses on the weekend.
No, it was
sectioned off. And
super sectioned off. And we had no interaction with the actual hospital at all.
Except when Gareth injured himself.
Yeah. Why don't we tell that story? Because it's absolutely astonishing.
I mean, the amount of lucky breaks we got. Right, the amount of lucky breaks we got was our DOP, he's a wonderful guy, Gareth Munden.
Oh, I love him. Where did you find him before we get into the story?
Dom found him.
Gareth is a diamond.
He's hilarious.
He's absolutely hilarious. He's the perfect person you want on set because he's got that right sense of, he's got the balance of a brilliant sense of humour and a lot of experience and professionalism.
He was a still photographer a long time, so I think he's brilliant. I'm a huge fan.
He's fantastic. Anyway, so carry on.
So we were very, very, the huge breaks that we got. So one bad break was, oh crap, it's middle of August, it's raining, and we wanted to do this great outdoor shot on that day. And I was like, oh god, things are going against us, the gods are against us. And then in one scene, I can't remember this, I can't remember the exact scene, but it was in one of the hospital rooms. He's changing a light, it slips, and it just slices open his hand. And blood is pouring everywhere. And at that point, you don't know how bad this could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some pretty serious veins in the
and
the
nerves
hand.
And
I didn't even. Yeah, of course.
It can be. And so, but we happened to be shooting at Finchley Memorial Hospital, so he literally him and Dom we ran off, dripping blood. Go to the it's not A&E there; it's kind of a walk-in centre,
right?
And they stitched him up with 4 stitches. He was back on set in an hour.
Probably cracking jokes as well. I'd already left at this point.
I was like, this is bananas. And I was thinking, firstly, he's fine. I think he's got some.
I mean, he had a big old bandage.
When I say fine, he's got some. He's had some bit of nerve issues, and he's going to be.
He's going to be all right.
He should be all right. I'm hoping that's the main thing.
Yeah.
But if that had happened any other day it's like.
Then the whole day is lost, basically.
Not just the whole day, the whole film. It's not like we have a budget to redo it.
That's right. Tight schedule.
And it happened to be done on... It didn't get injured when we were shooting at the bungalow the first couple of days. He didn't get injured when we were shooting in the synagogue and the mikveh. He got injured at the hospital.
Yeah.
It's just... We got so many lucky breaks, and I can't thank him enough, because to actually come back... I mean, unbelievable. So...
it's an astonishing turn of events.
It was just... I can't believe he came amazing, absolutely amazing. And it's the DOP. It's not like it's one of the crucial roles,
right?
It's it's cinematographer.
Yeah.
So you got a spare cinematographer in your pocket,
right? No, exactly.
And it's his vision. He had a vision for the film, and I think it's shot beautifully in black and white. There's a slight change, won't go into it, but And I mean, some of the shots are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Clearly, I might be biased, but but it's I'm really proud of it, and I think he's very proud of it as well. So. yeah, hopefully everyone will see it very soon.
Well, that's the thing. So on Sunday we're going to have the premiere.
Yeah.
And then where does it go from there? What's its journey afterwards?
So it's actually going to be the premiere's on the 8th, and it will be live for a couple of days. It will then show a few more times actually at the festival itself, because they then package some shorts into different. So there'll be like a British shorts package, and there'll be like, I think there's about 10 shorts in that, and then there's a Family Matters package which we're part of. I think there's a Woman's Matters package. That's not the title of it.
Sure.
So Schnoz is part of that one. So, and then there's Israeli shorts and so forth. And then the idea is really going to try hit the festival circuit. So
Yep.
I mean, the shame obviously is this would have been at a cinema and for networking and getting
all of the good
some
stuff.
knuckers from the family, come and watch the movie, whatever else. But also, we'd love to go to other festivals where that will be a possibility. So it depends on how much of a shelf life we think the film has.
Yeah.
Usually, from I say my experience, like this is the first short I produced, that they last a couple of years on the circuit. So do you go immediately to the circuit, or do you delay until maybe COVID isn't in the rearview mirror? But we're kind of picking. Fortunately, the UK Jewish Film Festival is a BAFTA B list, so if we get to another BAFTA B list, we could then never know what happens in life.
Yeah.
But we start with the A list festivals and work our way down the list.
Right. Submit.
Yeah, so that's
See
the
what
plan.
works. Yeah.
So we're kind of building together our strategy at the moment and go from there. Really.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah. No, I produced a short a couple of years ago now with my brother, and it's still doing something that we haven't been able to just release it in general, because you can't obviously release it before it's considered at these festivals. It's still going to a few different ones it's still there.
Yeah.
So it could be, it could be 6 months, it could be 2 years that it's. But well, that's good to hear. Maybe some of them will be in person.
Hopefully. What was the short about?
It's like a bungled heist.
Okay.
Caper, based on, like, me and my brother wrote this. My brother and I wrote this feature, which we've been tweaking ever since. And I mean, getting a feature made is murder.
Yeah.
I mean, getting a short made is murder. But we thought, well, how are we going to get this feature made? It seems impossible, right? We don't have the connections, we don't have the budget, we don't have the anything. So we were like, well, let's condense some of it, the nugget of whatever is best about it, into a short, get that made, and use that to drum up interest.
That's definitely what I want to do next.
Well, I mean, I
Sure
could definitely
will be.
see this being a bigger.
It could be. I was debating that. I mean, you've seen Whiplash, right? Brilliant movie.
The drumming movie.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen it.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant, right? I mean, the ending for me is just, I don't know, it's just fabulous. But it's a short as well. He made the short first in order to raise financing for the film. Yeah. And it's J.K. Simmons, right? He's the antagonist. He's in the short, and it's basically just 3 scenes. It's not even a full story, really. It's just 3 scenes. Young guy, nervous as hell in his first drum class. He's then up next, right? And he sees in the first, I guess the first act, if you will. J.K. Simmons destroys some guy and goes, "Okay, kid, you're up next." Oh crap! Oh shit!
Yeah.
And then the middle act is him being friendly with J.K. Simmons, going, "Oh, tell me about your father, tell me about your family."
Yeah.
And in the third act, he gets on the drums, and J.K. Simmons uses everything he learned in the second act to just destroy him and throws a chair in, and that's the whole story. And
Right.
then the essence of that then bleeds into the feature. It's absolutely brilliant.
I know. I've got to see it. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
That was his big break, right? What's his name? The director?
Is it Miles Teller? Is that?
No, the director. I mean,
The
you're right,
director.
the director. He did La La Land and then First Man. It's a good movie, First Man.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Damien. I can't remember.
We'll put
Power
it
of
in.
Google. But yes, I think that's clearly a standard thing, right? To try and make
definitely.
a short of.
It's a well-trodden path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looper. You ever seen Looper?
I have seen Looper.
That was
yeah.
a short, apparently.
Was it?
I don't know how you make a short of Looper, but
No, it's so well. I guess you could get like just some vignette, without putting too much context in it, and just it's
time travel and
Yeah.
in a short.
It's a cool movie.
Yeah, it's a really cool movie.
It's almost my favourite kind of movie. Not my favourite movie, but my favourite kind of movie, which is time loop movies. Those are my favourite kind of movies. Do you know what I mean?
I know, yeah.
Those are my favourite.
Well, I've got an idea for my next short, which I've written.
Okay.
It's kind of it's not a time. Well, I've written a first draft, so all first drafts are shit.
Right. Yeah.
But the basic premise is one thing I learned from this film is I thought it was a really low budget film, but I didn't realize how ambitious it was. In that that last day we shot a bonfire, we shot in a mikveh, we shot in it's like a religious pool. We shot in a study hall, we shot underwater, we shot at a lake, the lake scene. I mean, that's bonkers for a short film to have that many different sets in one day. And we shot in a hospital, and we shot in a bungalow. So that's not a low budget fit. I mean, it's an incredibly complex thing to do to try doing 3-4 days, and you've got 30 people on the crew. I couldn't believe how many people in a set, like 30 people in a short film. But so I wanted to do something all in one location with the same actors. So I've got this idea. It's a guy's 30th, 35th and 40th birthday. So it's all set in the same place, and it's kind of chopped up. And something terrible happens on the 35th birthday. And we're seeing the before and after. And then obviously at the end of the movie we see what happens on his birthday. So that's I think it's quite funny.
That sounds good.
I think I quite like it. Dom is still yet to read it, not that I'm in any way angry about that.
Too busy are you, Dom?
Well, apparently he's doing ballet at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah, he's
personally.
Yeah, if you met Dom, probably not. No, but he's up in Scotland, first ADing on a ballet thing.
Okay, great.
But yeah, I think it's quite. I quite like the structure of it. I think it's quite interesting. I think it's funny, and I could see that being. You have to obviously spin out the B stories and stuff, but I could see it as a feature as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it really worked. Basically, a death happens on the 35th birthday, and who did it, how they do it, that kind of mystery.
I could also weirdly see it. Have you seen Inside Number 9?
I've seen a few of them.
It seems like it could be the perfect kind of idea for an episode of that. So don't steal it, Inside Number 9. I know you all listen to this show. I
saw that homeless guy rocks up and he takes it. You see that one?
I love that episode.
Oh, that's great.
And they kind of end up switching roles.
They're really good though. So a friend of mine, Jamie told me to watch it. It's really clever. Really clever. Talented guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, astonishing. I sent out a message to various people who were in this film.
Oh, really?
Not everybody has got back to me, but some people have. If you could ask Jason one question, what would it be? Katie Bernstein says, if you could only pick 2 characters to go for dinner with from the West Wing...
She's a West Wing obsessive as well.
Which ones and why?
That's a good question. Right, so I was debating Toby, but he's too dour.
Toby, he's so dour. I don't know any of these.
Any of these. So it's got to be Josh Lyman, obviously.
Of course.
Naturally, Bradley Whitford.
Okay, right, the actor. I see.
And I probably asked Rob Lowe just because he's clearly, I said to Kate, drinking some elixir. How does he still look like 25?
I know. What's
going on there? I just need to get to
young people's blood. We've covered this. Adrenochrome, I believe they call it.
Yeah.
No, and he'd have some good stories, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he probably would. But actually, to be honest, I'd want to go out with Alice Ajani because she's just awesome.
Wait, so who are you kicking to the curb?
Rob Lowe.
He's gone.
Yeah,
he can stand outside and look through the glass.
Yeah, he's probably got Dorian Gray somewhere locked up. That's probably what's going on. But it's more like Alison Janney is just amazing. She's a talent. She's just amazing. Yeah, and my wife's obsessed by what's that musical she's in with John Travolta?
Grease, Mamma Mia, Hairspray. I know nothing about
Hairspray,
but I got it.
Hairspray, yeah. My wife's obsessed with Alison Janney and that. But yeah, so Alison Janney and Bradley Whitford would be my 2.
Nice. Okay. I don't know anything. I don't know what that means at all. So are they antagonists? Are they?
Oh no, it's an ensemble cast. So Bradley Whitford plays the deputy chief of staff.
Okay.
So he's like the guy just basically trying to get stuff done. And Alison Janney is the press secretary. So she's the face of the administration. And he's like a child in a he's just naive and wants to, he's just really believes anything's possible, and then that he just runs through walls and obviously things go wrong. And Alison Janney's just brilliance personified. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
There you go, Katie Bernstein.
What are you going to have for dinner?
I don't know. I was going to deliver it with you. That was my plan.
That sounds perfect. Well, I mean, look, how long? Let me just check. We're down for 43 minutes. So I guess we can start to wrap it up a bit. But I thought we might end sort of talking about some more esoteric things, because we don't know each other that well, but it's nice to get to know you a bit more. But from our interactions, I've noticed you are a very zen person. You look at me like maybe that hasn't been said about you before.
Yeah, I guess I am. I'm definitely not. My brother's the spiritual one. I'm the.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean spiritual, although you can tell me your spiritual beliefs if you want. I meant sort of, more like in a kind of like life approach way. You seem like someone who has understood the highs and lows of your inner self and is able to navigate the waters quite successfully. Is that just some persona that you're projecting, or is there some truth to it? Have you got some personal philosophy that has enabled you to do that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's more that I avoid conflict like the plague, so therefore I seem perpetually calm, where actually underneath it's just like I'm just like scared of saying the wrong thing, so nothing gets said. So it looks like calmness, but actually it's just like everything's bubbling beneath the surface.
Right, it's the duck swimming on the pond
exactly,
with the legs underneath.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's my... I'm not sure that's a very good philosophy of life. But lends itself to kind of writing and some kind of catharsis by like, okay, this is what I really wanted to say.
Ah, interesting.
If I was in that moment, this is what I would like to say.
Right. So you're like a mediator, in a situation of conflict, you will always seek to resolve, but actually mentally you're thinking about all the different things, and then they will come out in different ways when you get to the keyboard. And
exactly, kind of that. It's my therapy, if you will, is writing.
That's an interesting. So you just pour out. Do you have a certain time of day that you like to write? Is there
I'm more of a... It comes in fits, so I'll kind of think about an idea for a long time, not do anything about it, and then suddenly I'll blast out 30 pages. And then rewrite the whole thing because it's terrible, and then start again. So I'm not one who writes 2-3 pages a day. It's got to be, okay, I need to concentrate it. I mean, when I wrote Women at Valour, it was originally Aisha Kyle, but it very much, I was kind of toying with it for a long time, and then just the whole thing came out in kind of one go. Then I had to rewrite the whole thing. It was kind of, because I wrote the film in the house that we filmed it in.
Right.
So it was kind of weird for me, that scene where, well, there's a big argument. I actually wrote it where they're having that argument. It was kind of an emotional moment for me. Like, no one else understands this, and I'm like crying.
But again, you were just calmness personified in the moment. Yeah. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I don't know. Scared of showing emotion, but that's why I put it down on paper. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I do think all the things I've written have this kind of, there is a running theme that go through them.
Yeah. And
invariably that is some, I mean, the writer is definitely in the story in some way.
Yeah.
So
people
they say you write what you know.
Yeah.
It's otherwise if you did that, you never write a sci-fi story, right? But the truth of the story, if you will, whatever kind of specious meaning that has, is some kind of reflection
of some aspect of you.
Yeah, exactly. Of any writer, I think. Right?
Of any writer, yeah. Because I watched The Shining again recently.
I've never actually seen The Shining, which is
a fantastic movie.
I feel like it's a stain on my...
It's brilliant. You would love it. No one's got anything to do. Here we go. There's your second recommendation. Barton Fink and The Shining. But the reason I bring it up is, of course, right, well, you know, Stephen King hasn't stayed in some hotel over the winter, and no spoilers, but like... None of that stuff happened, but the main character is a writer. Yeah. And he's experiencing writer's block in some way or other without, again, getting into it. And it's like, okay, he's taken some aspect. He started with the germ of truth. And I think even with the most elaborate stories that are sci-fi, out of this world, fantasy, whatever, the really successful ones will have that at their core, won't they?
You think about it, like The Matrix. What's it about? To you, what's it about? Putting on the spot now.
Jesus?
Well, yeah, okay. But for me, what it's about is a guy who doesn't believe in himself. That's the whole story. If you think about it, the whole story is... what's Lawrence Fishburne's character? Morpheus. Right? Morpheus trying to teach him to believe in himself.
Yeah.
The midpoint of the story is the Oracle tells him not to believe... You know, it's not going to happen. You're not the one. So he doesn't believe in himself. And at the very end of this movie, what happens for his rebirth? he's beginning to believe.
He's beginning to believe.
So the whole, whatever kind of paraphernalia and the works and the whatever, the shooting, whatever, it's all about just some character who just doesn't believe in himself. And then he actually has to, who is he? It's kind of a movie about identity.
And it turns out he's Jesus.
And it turns out he's Jesus.
That's what I mean. Do you know they're doing another one?
Yeah, I did read this.
Terrible idea, right?
Yeah, it was the fourth, right?
The
I can't remember the third, except...
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why you shouldn't make number 4.
But it's like what you said, like my first ever thing, like the first movie I wrote was about, I used to be an emerging market journalist, and it was about a travelling writer.
Yeah.
Who was go home and debating should he stay or should he go. It's just clearly what I was going through, right? Like I was dancing around the world for 4 years.
Oh, yeah?
I was like, what should I do next? And that's what the story was. And invariably every story in some capacity is about whatever journey or whatever the writer's going on, I would say.
Ah, an emerging market journalist. So that's places where the economy is just starting to grow.
Yeah, so I used to represent kind of Fortune and Time magazine for this little agency that basically, they did those kind of special sections. So you feel like you're like a cross between kind of an international diplomat and a used car salesman. That's kind of the role you're at. So you would like you'd be dropped off in the middle of some random country. So
Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah. But I mean, let's say my first gig. What was my first gig? My first gig was South Africa. I flew like 24. It literally took 28 hours to get there because they do a barter agreement, right? So I flew from London to Barcelona, Barcelona to Rome, Rome to Addis Ababa to. I was there, right? But you basically go. This was 2000. Before the World Cup. You go interview a bunch of ministers. You kind of get a narrative for the story, and then you find people who will sponsor it. Ah. So yeah, it was cool. So that's where I started in South Africa. And then where I go, I went South Africa. I then went to Sierra Leone. I went to the Maldives, Qatar, Bulgaria, Cyprus. I lived in Istanbul for about a year, almost a year. Wow. That was my last gig.
When was that? Before or after the revolution? Quote unquote, the attempted coup.
Oh, in Turkey?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I left Turkey in 2010, 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it was way before.
Yeah, it's way before, yeah.
Yeah, so I loved Istanbul. Istanbul's amazing. You ever been?
No, I'd love to go, yeah.
I always dreamt of like living in Istanbul for a long time. And
then you did?
Then I did.
Fascinating.
If you get the chance to go to Zambia, that's amazing.
I have been to Zambia.
You have? You've been to Victoria Falls?
Briefly, I've been to Victoria Falls.
It's just a stunning place I've ever been.
Unbelievable, yeah. That's the only time in my life I've been in a helicopter.
Oh, I did the microlight.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I've always wanted to do the microlight.
My dad's gone as well. I went to No Man's Land, did the bungee jump.
Yeah.
And some kid, it's just awful. You go up in the microlight, you see Zimbabwe, and a kid comes over and sells me for $1 like this $100 trillion note. It's like framed on my wall. It's just tragic, but it's just
because of the hyperinflation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But amazing experience. I remember I was driving back from Victoria Falls to Lusaka. Our car broke down, and you're broken down in the middle of the bush in the middle of Zambia.
There are animals, literal, lions are around.
Yeah, and there's just random. I remember just walking past this random, like freaking out a little bit, like it's getting night.
Yeah,
my mother didn't know this. Random shack and kids are playing PlayStation in the middle of the Zambian desert. It was kind of wow, cool. But yeah, we just got this random bus that had driven up from Cape Town, taking me back to Lusaka. I got very lucky. But no, it was a cool gig. It was fun.
What made you want to stop being an emerging market journalst?
Well, I travelled for 10 months a year.
Yeah.
So
you're never home.
I kind of figured out. I loved it I did it for about 4 or 5 years. I think the point at which where you can't be bothered to meet new people because it's such a transient experience is when you knew you had to kind of
right. You start to feel jaded, and you're like, oh, you can't have this in this job.
I think a lot of people do it, and they get locked in. Firstly, the lifestyle's great. You do a barter agreement, stay in a 5-star hotel. You do this, you do that. You like hobnob with them. Minister of Economy, head of state, great. You feel important when you're really not. Because I did find like a lot of you can sound intelligent by asking questions, but you didn't really have to it was no cross-examination, so it's kind of like Minister of Economy, make out what the hell's going on in like the Turkish economy. Or I did a thing on the Qatari World Cup, and you meet the Emir's son, and you have a whole kind of go out for a drink after. Then I wasn't doing after drink anyway. It's a bit controversial in Qatar, but and then you're kind of like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
So I came back to Merry London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's what got me started writing, was when I was there.
Oh, in Istanbul?
Yeah, I first started in Istanbul, that kind of debate about what do I do next.
So you're planning your exit strategy?
Yeah, and that I first started doing, how did I engage with it? By starting to write. So that's where it really got started.
Wow. That's a fascinating story.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Oh, well, yeah.
I'm pleased.
That's so interesting.
So I think people come to writing in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, just to wrap up, this has been a great episode. Let's do something a bit traditional. What have your COVID lows and COVID highs been? Pick one from each, and you're not allowed to say our short film. Far too easy.
Well, I've got a really good COVID high.
Okay, well, let's end with the COVID high.
It beats all others.
That sounds really exciting. Let's hope you can live up to it.
I think I can.
Let's start with the COVID low. What's been your nadir of COVID? What are we, 7-8 months in now?
Well, I presume I can't use, death.
Well, you're not dead, are you?
No, not my own death, but people,
Right. No.
Besides,
Besides the global pandemic and all of the death and all of our life being shit and all of that.
Well, I think they're linked, my high and my low.
Okay.
Right? My high and my low are
Great.
linked, right? So
Perfect.
the low was because of COVID. My parents couldn't meet their grandson for a good 2-3. My dad's quite vulnerable.
Right.
So they couldn't meet their new grandson.
So he was born in the...
That was my high, right? So my son was born in April, which was kind of the height, and no one knew what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
So it was very much both a mixture of everyone was panicking. There was no now people know what they're doing, like you guns for your temperature and this and that and yada yada, and there was no hand gels, there was no sanitizer, there was nothing. So it was my high was obviously my son being born April 16th. I wasn't allowed into the hospital until the final moment. There was horror stories of other people at NCT class who didn't make it, or just made it. So I slept in my car, watching. Yeah, it was. And then I didn't want to drink anything because I was worried about peeing. Because you can't go any. That's a ridiculous thing. My wife's in labour, and I'm worried about not peeing. So yeah, I slept in the car for 7-8 hours, and every time I rolled over, the car alarm would go off. Some homeless guy came up and showed me his tuchus. So it was kind of an interesting. But yeah, then I ran, and then my son was born. It was the most kind of surreal, wonderful moment. And then that was the great high, which was just wonderful. And the low was my son couldn't meet his grandparents.
Yeah.
So.
But then.
But then they did.
Exactly, and it's not like he's making any memories right now.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But for them, obviously, and then now they're able to. We've got the bubbles.
Well, actually, now
stuff.
they're kind of because they're so vulnerable with the new restrictions. They're kind of.
It's
They're kind of isolating, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've had some wonderful moments. But my high was pretty damn high.
That is a great high.
That is a good COVID high.
That's a really good high. Let's leave on that high. Jason Collin, thank you so much for coming on. Would you come back again?
Absolutely.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the show. This has been The Bliss of the Abyss with your host, me, Robin Umar Jones, Ruskin Denmark, whatever you want to call me. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider supporting it by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/The Bliss of the Abyss and give whatever you can. It really, really helps support the show and keeps it growing and becoming better and bigger and brighter. Follow us on all the social medias, follow me on all the social medias, and give us 5 stars. It helps grow the show. Keep coming back every week for more Bliss of the Abyss.
Message 1. Hey, Nose, it's me. She's calling to see if maybe you're in now, but I guess not, so I guess I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night. Talk to you then. Bye.